Another day, another chance for Tommy Tuberville to say the stupidest BS you ever heard. Take a look at this.
We're getting to a point now where women and girls sports are getting ready to be extinct, because already in states across this country, we have high school teams that are made up of totally boys participating against girls. So it's very serious. Hopefully we can get something done today, but President Trump's executive order is only going to last, John, 4 years. After that, it'll probably go the other way.
All across America, at schools across America, there are teams made up entirely of trans students. Just trans, the whole thing. First base, center field, pitcher, just trans athletes everywhere. They're just dominating every sport. You can't go to one women's sporting event, which he never would, ever, without seeing an entire team. Look, obviously this is the dumbest thing I think that we've heard it on the show today, maybe this week. That's utterly insane, by the way. Now, he said it on the Megyn Kelly Show, and she actually kind of pushed back a little bit, which we'll get to. But to be clear, this is a thing that he has been saying for some time. He made the same claim back. This is in early February. He said, again, entire teams of trans girls all over America. And so he goes on to say, and what's gonna happen is we're gonna end up not having women's sports, which would break his heart because he's such a supporter of women's athletics, because parents are not going to allow their kids to dress in dressing rooms, take showers with biological boys, or they don't wanna compete against them because of it being a safety factor. But it is devastating what is happening. And so the entire thing that he's brought up is totally fake. It doesn't actually exist. This isn't an actual issue that parents are having to worry about. Now, they immediately go to the thing they always do, which is that this is a safety concern. Interesting, though, that considering that they have been talking about this topic for literally years, it being a safety concern after all this time remains hypothetical, because they can't bring up one instance in which this has actually imperiled the health of anyone, trans or cis. Isn't that strange that they don't have one case study, one example, one time that a good cis girl was devastated, brutalized by a trans athlete after all this time? And especially considering that there are entire teams of trans athletes all over the place. It's so weird that they haven't been able to come up with any. So anyway, Megyn Kelly, to her very limited credit, pushes back and says, could you elaborate on entire rosters filled with trans girls? And he says, well, most of them are track teams. You're gonna have a few in volleyball, you're gonna have a few in basketball, but mostly the track teams, and they're in blue states. We get calls all the time about this. Even the parents in the blue states are in an uproar about this, and it's gonna become a common thing if we don't stop it now. Wait, Holly, what do you mean it's gonna become a common thing? You just said it's all over America. Why are you backtracking already, Tommy Tuberville? Anyway, he says, you let this landslide keep going. A landslide of trans field hockey players. We're gonna have huge problems getting this stopped, so it's important we stop it now. Again, it's bad now, but wait, if we don't stop it, then it'll be bad. Which is it? Is it bad now, or is it gonna become bad? And so AL.com reached out to his office and wanted sources indicating an all trans team in women's high school sports, track or otherwise. And a spokeswoman shared articles of trans girls who won track events, but none of the teams were comprised only of trans girls. So to be clear, they could not come up with one case, because obviously they couldn't, because that has literally never happened in American history. And so as we've talked about, there are a lot of issues that the right picks up because they have no respect whatsoever for their base, and they don't want their base to understand that the only reason Republicans ever get into office is to enrich the wealthiest people in the country. So they need something to occupy their time, and they've come up with this of trans sports. And so we've talked about how many trans athletes there actually are, and we don't know for sure in high school athletics. Some experts estimate that there are not more than 100 trans girl high school athletes across the entire country. That if you were to put them all into one area, they could perhaps be a football team or something, but that's never actually happened, Tommy Tuberville, so relax, don't worry about that. And as I have talked about recently, the NCAA, because again, this is about competitions being subverted by trans people or whatever, there's like 10. 10 athletes in the entire country. As I've pointed out many times, there are more billionaires on Donald Trump's cabinet than there are trans athletes in the NCAA. Oh, by the way, there are like 15 times as many measles cases in Texas right now as there are trans athletes in the NCAA. Isn't it strange that we're told to focus on the one and only to enrage us, to want to get people out of here, to stop them from competing? Tommy Tuberville, I cannot say is lying to you, because the alternative explanation is that he is dumb as hell. And when you look at him and you see his face and you hear his voice, I defy you to rule out the possibility that he's just that stupid. But stupid or lying, whichever it is, it has no reflection on reality. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?